to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
And so what do we know about Amy Coney Barrett then?
Okay,
is she a good pick, you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I know about her and we talk about whether she's a good pick. She is brilliant, super smart, went to she went to Rhodes College in Memphis for undergrad. She went to Notre Dame Law School. She's the only non-Harvard or Yale justice on the Supreme Court.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
Ginsburg went to Columbia and Harvard. She went to both.
Okay.
She transferred after her first or second year because I think her husband got sick. But Amy Coney Barrett went to Notre Dame. I want to say she was briefly in private practice, and then she went back to teach at Notre Dame Law School, and that was where she spent most of her career till she was appointed to the Seventh Circuit because she's from Indiana.
Okay.
And so she was at Notre Dame, got appointed to the Seventh Circuit. Seventh Circuit sits in Chicago. It's a very influential circuit. A lot of very esteemed judges over the course of the U.S. history have sat in the Seventh Circuit. And so they tend to be a lot of real smart economists that sit in the Seventh Circuit. Chicago pumps out a lot of economics folks. And so she sat on the Seventh Circuit, and then she was appointed to the Supreme Court by the president.
I see. And she seems young. I mean, she looks pretty young.
Yeah, I want to say she's in her 40s.
That young?
I don't quote me. Andrew can Google it. She's not. I don't think she's 50.
Wow. Well, that explains it. 7 kids, is that right?
Yeah, pretty devout Catholic.
Okay.
I think she's actually part of a kind of a charismatic Catholic congregation or network of churches.
Yeah. I saw something about that. Were you able to find how old she is?
48 years old.
Dang, I mean, it just seems so young. I mean, that's got to be by far the youngest of the 9 judges right now on the Supreme Court,
She's definitely
right?
the youngest. I want to say Kavanaugh would be the next one. He's in his 50s.
Okay. I have heard a couple of times where, this might be butchering the terminology a little bit, but where Obama left some seats open on some courts. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And now, why would that be? What is that, and why would he do that?
Well, I don't think he wanted to. Mitch McConnell wouldn't push through any of his nominees.
Oh,
so at some
okay.
point during, so in Obama's first 2 years, the Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House. But at that point, there was still a filibuster rule for judges, all judges, district judges, appeals judges, which means you had to have 60 votes to appoint a judge. And Democrats didn't have 60 votes. They had 50-something votes. Mitch McConnell, being the minority leader, really wouldn't let them get any judges through that they wanted to.
I see.
So what happened is during the first 2 years, Harry Reid was the majority leader from Nevada, and they abolished the filibuster for district judges and circuit judges, meaning they only needed 51 votes. And so during those 2 years, they pushed through a lot of circuit and district judges. After that, this Senate flipped back to the Republicans. Mitch McConnell became the majority leader and really refused to hear the vast majority of President Obama's appointments to the federal bench, including, most famously, Merrick Garland to the U.S. Supreme Court. And so I think that I take a little bit of an issue with the claim that I've heard repeated, I could think on the right, that there are, Obama just didn't do his job and left a lot of these judgeships open. I mean, what president wouldn't want to fill judgeships? I mean, that's a huge, he's a lifetime appointment.
Right.
The problem is that Mitch McConnell really is a mastermind of the Senate, and just, if you didn't have 60 votes, or if you didn't have the votes, then you couldn't pass the people. And the Democrats didn't have the votes. They didn't have 51.
That makes sense. Okay.
And then, if you'll recall, in order to get President Trump's appointments to the U.S. Supreme Court, first Justice Gorsuch, then Justice Kavanaugh, then now Justice Barrett. I mean, 3 justices in one term is quite a lot, much more than most. Which, by the way, FDR appointed 8, I think, because he was there for 3 terms. Yeah, and then he threatened. Then he threatened
3 terms.
He was elected 3 times, and then he died when he was in office in his 3rd term.
Was that before they had the policy?
Yes. So it was before we had the amendment that limited it to 2 terms.
No kidding.
1933 to 1945. Actually was elected to a 4th term, but died in office.
That's right.
1933 to 1945, that guy was president?
Mm-hmm.
Through
That's
the whole
impressive.
wake of the Great Depression, through most of World War II.
Wow. And he appointed 8. Yeah, but aside from that,
Including,
appointing 3 in Trump's term is
3 is a lot.
Is a lot.
And so, yeah, I think that And that enabled President Trump to get his nominees through with only 51 votes.
What enabled that?
Why
didn't he need 60
right,
also?
So that when Harry Reid got rid of the filibuster for district and circuit judges, there was still a filibuster for the Supreme Court. Kind of thinking, look, let's at least keep this rule of the Senate to have this great debate and get 60 votes. The point of that is it moderates the picks, right? Because you need people from the other side to vote for your pick. And so it kept people pretty, for example, Justice Roberts, conservative, not super far to the right. In fact, he's voted with the left-leaning justices several times in the last few years. But the filibuster existed. They decided to get rid of the filibuster because they were never going to get Democratic votes to push through the Supreme Court nominees from President Trump because there was just such pushback to him as a president. So Mitch McConnell got rid of the filibuster for the U.S. Supreme Court seat, and then they were able to push through. All they needed was 51 votes for his 3 nominees.
So it's a little workaround. So
I mean, there's nothing in the Constitution says that you have to make it 60 votes. It was done to make the Senate. That's why people that are in the Senate say it's the greatest. I forget what they say. The greatest center of debate or the greatest deliberative body in the history of the world. And in many ways, that was because of the filibuster, because they were forced to reach out to people that disagreed with them.
I see. Okay.
So now there's no more filibuster. There is on some things, but not for judges.